I'm going to talk now just a little on nervines and antispasmodic herbs. This group of herbs here are such that we'd be lost without them. Now, I explained slightly a little how we handle this nervous system that we have got. In each individual's body here, we have, in each one, we have miles, not yards or feet, but miles and miles of nerves, nerve capillaries, nerve lines. And the body is so dramatically built, so completely computerized, and so perfect that we've got to keep it in good condition. We have a number of herbs, nervine herbs, that cannot be done without. They are so valuable. You know, things move smooth for some people. We never have a dull moment in our area, and my sweet wife takes care of her part of it. We don't have two people doing the same job, and so all the worrying I assign to her. And she walks the floors nights, and I wonder if we're going to make this payment or that payment, or I wonder about this or wonder about that. And she gets to a point where she's just weary and yet she can't sleep. Well, one of the early things we taught her was to use valerian tea. Valerian tea. This is just an herb, but I'm citing this one because if you're brave enough to drink it, you're all right, because it tastes like someone washed out some dirty socks in the water. It's the most horrible stuff. In fact, we had a shipment of valerian tea come into our post office, and they got fouled up on where it was to go. And it had been in there for days. And finally they located us, and we came in, and my wife went in to get it, and the whole post office stank of it. Well, the odd part about it was when she said, "Oh, I'm Mrs. Christopher. I came for the herb shop to pick up." "Oh, thank you, boys. She's come." And they bring over the herbs and shove it out the window and say, "Thank you. Get it away as fast as you can." When I'm talking about the stench of valerian, I'm not kidding. It's awful. And so whenever she gets really upset or nervous or worried or has walked the floor too long, she takes a cup of valerian tea, conks out, and she doesn't know anything about the valerian tea now. She's got her sleep. It's precious. And every one of these nervine herbs have a specific use. Some of them will rebuild the sheath that's worn out on the nervous system. Those nerves are hanging down in our body in various places, like wires hanging down in the attic, and they rub back and forth, and the sheath gets worn off, and they've got to have a rebuilding job. Some of these nerve herbs are for this. Your mistletoe is almost pure nervine, yes. No, that stems back to the motor nerve again, because you can oftentimes with tig-dollar root work on the specific area, and it doesn't do as good a job as when you go back to the source. This is why we use the B&B tincture, and we have seen immediate results with some on this. Now, you can use that plus the nerve combination of the 9 nerve herbs. Now, one takes care of the medulla oblongata and this area through here, the spinal cord, and the 9 nerve herbs take care of all the rest of the nerves in the whole body.
Question on mistletoe. Things like when we use it in such small amounts, because in large amounts we've seen grogginess go on for so long. Is this something you noticed?
Yes, definitely. And that's why in our combination you notice we have 1 part, 2 parts. It's an 1/8, a 1/16, or it is a small amount. There is an amazing thing about herbs. They like to work alone, but sometimes they are a little obnoxious. They are like in a quartet, and one of them, the voice shrieks out. So we mix our herbs, and it's more like a choir. They are molded. They are more perfect and more beautiful. We have to be careful of these herbs that are so rough to take, and then that's why we have our modulation. But listen to the unusual names of nervines: skullcap, valerian, lady slipper, mistletoe, wood betony, cramp bark, so forth. Each of them have an odd name, but that name signifies main things for it. Your cramp bark is an antispasmodic that cannot be exhaled. You can use this with such great results. The hops. This one on hops. We have an herb here that will rebuild the sheath so fast. It is one of the great aids. Hops are valuable. Of course, they're raised for many things besides putting into nervine. When we were in Olympia, Washington, I was practicing there, and it was during the war years. And I had so many patients that were worried and one thing and another. I used to make, besides giving them the 9-nerve herb formula, I would make hop pillows for some of them. And, you know, just the essence from the hops coming through there, they would sleep with such ease. Here, we have, with hops, so many values, but one of them is they're so soothing on the nerves if they're not mixed with beer. Your cohoshes are valuable in biological reproduction where we're having children. The cohoshes are extremely valuable. The 9-nerve herbs that we have. One night, I got a house call in Salt Lake. The man said, "Dr. Christopher, could you come up to our home?" It was around midnight. I said, "Yes, what's wrong?" "Well," he said, my wife is an instructor at the East High School, and she's been a very good wife. But she's got to a point now where the students won't even tolerate her. And she has agreed that we can sign her into the asylum because it looks like she's going crazy. We'd like you to come if there's any way and try a last chance on her." And I said, "Yes, I'll come up." So I packed my bag and went up there. She'd been pacing the floor. She would walk the floor by a half hour, 3/4, and then she'd doze off for a couple of minutes, and she'd walk again. As long as she ever would doze off, it'd be 20 minutes. So I had told them to have hot water ready when I got there. And I took a teaspoonful of the nerve herb combination, put it in a cup, and poured the boiling water over. Thank you. And as I poured the boiling water over, I put the saucer on top, and we sat there while it steeped. It was strained, and I told her to sip it. And she did, and in a very, very short time, she said, "I'm getting a little drowsy. I think I'll go lie down for a minute or two." And I said, "Well, I'll leave. It's getting late, and I've got to get back." And her husband said, "Now, I asked you when I called you to see that there was no drugs, no poisonous, nothing that's addictive." And I said, "Look, it's an innocent tea. There's no problem. Don't worry about it." And he looked at me dubiously. And she said, "Well, wait just a minute or two. I'll be back down. I just want to doze for a minute or two." And I said, to her husband, I don't think it'll be a minute or two. I think she'll be quite a while. So I went home. Next morning at 8 o'clock, this man called me. Dr. Christopher, you told me that there were no drugs, that you didn't use any knockout drops or anything else. She's still asleep. I've got to waken her to get her to go to school. Are you sure? I said, of course not. There's nothing in those herbs that are toxic or poisonous or habit-forming. And you can give those herbs to a small infant, and it will not harm them. Well, all right, but I've got to go wake her up. That woman was completely healed. She didn't go to the asylum. She continued teaching until her years were over. These are just samples of nerve herbs, yes.
Would you use this combination for depression as well as for anxiety? I mean, I gathered that the lady was very anxious and restless, and that soothed her and made her sleep. But would you use this combination for deep anxiety?
Definitely deep anxiety. Yes, you see, what we're working on is the cause.
Sorry, deep depression.
Depression, the same. We're working on cause. And the cause is in the nervous system. So whether it's depression or whether it's anxiety or whatever it is, it's a nervous malfunction. And so we're going to feed those nerves. And that's the key to our whole program, is going to the cause and feeding the source that is not functioning properly.